Hello students, welcome to today's session. I'm Dr. Govindaraju Bharadwaja from School of Performing and Visual Art. Today we are going to discuss theatre and drama under the course Understanding of Drama BTH 001. The main objectives and the focus of this particular unit on the dramatic structure, which includes the plot, character, and the three unities, and the dramatic texture that has a wide range of imaginary and symbolism to setting up the props from dialogue and action to acts and scenes, from the atmosphere and setting to the tone of the play. The unit hopes to update the dramatic terminology and the aspects of drama which constitute a play in general. This unit actually we are talking about the more dramatic terminology where usually it is used in a performance or to understand the word drama or theatre. Drama, as we all know, that it is the most dependent art forms. In other words, drama is a composite art form. It requires a director, actor, dialogues, story, actor, performers, and setting, properties, maybe costumes, stage, and of course, at the last and not least, the audience, which we call it as spectators. All are required to make it happen as a play. In any theatrical performance, the actors, and there will be some story to be narrated, and invariably there must be some audience to witness the performance. Then only it is the act of this performance is called theatrical event. The play involves a conflict, action, crisis, and the atmosphere. All these are entertaining to watch. Now let us try to understand each one of these words in general and also with relation to drama and theatre and also the performance. Plays are enjoyable to read as a text. Plays are generally written in a literature format. It is called as drama. Plays are enjoyable to read as a text, and also the words are as their medium. Selection of the words, choice of the words, choice of the phrases, choice of the sentences which are used by the playwright will be written in a format, in a literature format called as a drama. It is enjoyable while reading also, but the main purpose of the writing of a play is to be performed before the naked eyes of the audience. Drama is the most peculiar, rather odd, unusual, elusive, and enthralling of all the forms of literature. It has a universal appeal and lies near to deeper consciousness of the nation in which it takes place and it rises. It is capable of addressing a widely and diversely perpetuated people of the different ages, periods, and also to the cultures. So if you need to understand any nation or any place, you should see the performances, especially the theatrical performances of that particular place or the country. A literary text remains as a building. In any literary work of a structure comprises a story and the characters, action, and the dialogues. Of course, they are also called as lines, whereas the texture is highlighted through the images, symbols, metaphors, setting, and audio visual aids, etc. the images which are created, the images or the symbols or metaphors which are created by the lines and with the performances of the actors, it will be shown to the audience. Thus, the dramatist represents the life on the stage. As Aristotle said, the tragedy is the imitation of the human action. One must grasp this wider meaning of the play. This is implicit in action and the characterization, the dramatic theme and the dialogues which reveal the soul of the story. How the story of the play is revealed? Through the performances of the actors, and not only by the performances of the actors, by the rendition of their lines, which are composed by the dramatist, of course. Now let us understand the dramatic structure. What exactly goes into a drama or a play? The drama and the play and the theatre, these words are interchangeably used in the terminology of theatre and drama. These three terms go side by side. There is a slight difference in that. Plot. Now first let us talk about the plot. What is a plot? The plot is nothing but the radical arrangements of dramatic incidents is known as plot. There are many dramatic incidents in anybody's life or in any story, but here the dramatist is not going to consider all the dramatic incidents to build up a play. He or she will be selecting radically, means logically arranging the dramatic incidents of a story to come up with a structure called plot. Plot is a more inclusive term. It is a fully developed version of the story. There is a story, but the fully developed version is known as plot. In plot, what happens? There is a story, but the playwright will be selecting the dramatic incidents. The dramatic incidents of that particular story, which dramatic incident will be preceded by the other one and the next one, and then in a chronological order, so as to develop the interest in the minds of the audience, and also in the interest of the readers who is going to read the play as a text. It takes an account of the nature of the characters, that way in which events are related to each other and their dramatic effect. The dramatic incidents are so placed that it will create a curiosity in the minds of the audience, so that what is going to happen next? What is going to happen next? And that kind of a curiosity will be generated in the minds of the audience and also in the minds of the readers when the play is performed or when a play is read out. And then plot takes the overall significance of the play. As Aristotle said, the plot is the spine of the tragedy. Without plot, the play cannot exist as it is to be performed. The plot, Aristotle termed as it mythos, is a dramatic or a narrative work, is constituted by a number of events, as these are presented in the order, so that the specific artistic effects are created. As I told earlier also, selecting of the dramatic incidents is more important. In any story there will be a number of dramatic incidents, but what incident to be followed by what next, that is the chronology to be maintained to arouse the interest or the artistic effect on the minds of the audience or the minds of the readers who are going to read your play. Plate and the plot and the characters are interdependent. What happens? We create a plot. Through plot, the characters are being generated. In other words, the plot and the characters are interdependent. One is dependent on the other. Without plot, there is no creation of any character. Without any character also, sometimes what the modern technology, we are first creating a character, then creating a story or a plot. But usually, traditionally, the structure of the play is like first create a plot, means a story or a storyline or an idea to be presented, and then through that we are going to create certain characters. The dramatic structure. Now let us discuss about the dramatic structure. The dramatist is given the task of providing the actors such dialogues as will enable them to adequately to interpret their parts and at the same time are in complete in harmony. Harmony means the one character is related to other. Once the play is created through characters, the characters are interrelated. If they are moving independently, then the audience will not be able to understand the story. So dramatist will give a full task to the actors, giving them the proper lines and proper interrelationship between the characters, so as to make the audience to understand the story. As Nicole writes, when any dramatist sets the work, he will have at the outset the three things to determine: the theme which is to be dealt with. Every story will have a theme. For example, we are saying that the Satyameva Jayate. This is the theme of any play. For example, we are writing a play about Raja Harishchandra. The main theme of the play would be like Satyameva Jayate. In other words, in one single line, we are giving the entire meaning of the play, that is theme. So once the playwright first task is to make the audience to understand the theme of the play. The one theme in the mind, then the story is netted around the theme, and then once you prepare that netting, that what we call is a plot, and then the characters are coming through your own story. The theme should be dealt with what? Characters by means of which that theme is to be displayed. The medium is actually the lines or the dialogues through which both are to be given an expression. So now the theme is created. In order to make this theme understand, you will be netting a plot. Through plot, we are creating a characters. Through characters, we will be developing some dialogues or the lines, so as to make the story to be understood by the audience. Thus, the plot is the main entire entity that controls the intricate, most complex machinery of the play. So now plot. Some more points on the plot. In order to a unified plot is continuous sequence of beginning and middle and end. This is the most important structure which we are talking about a play or a plot. Plot should be like a starting point and the middle point and the end point. These three entities are to be there in any plot. Otherwise, the audience will be in a confusion state, so they may or may not be able to understand the story. So in any general plot, there will be a starting point, and there will be a middle point, and there will be an end point, which we usually call it as a climax. The beginning initiates the main action, and it is also known as exposition of your own story or exposition of your own play. The middle presumes that what has gone before and requires something to follow, and raising action reaches its climax. In middle, what happens? What exactly happened in between the story? What earlier has happened? Now what is going to happen? To give a lead, the middle structure will be created, which will be a rising action, or also to the exposition, another exposition to the climax. The crisis comes later through a reversal of happiness following the denouement, and the final resolution takes us to the end of the play. At the before the climax, there will be a crisis between the two thoughts, crisis maybe between the two characters, crisis between two places, or crisis between the two concepts, which will be creating the climax, making a path to reach the climax so as to end the story. German critic Gustav Freytag indicated the analysis of plot as Freytag's pyramid. He has developed a pyramid structure. He described the typical plot of a 5-act plays as a pyramidal shape. So usually he has analyzed a 5-act. What is act and what is scene? We are again going to discuss that. Every play will be divided into small scenes, and all the scenes will be added up and called as an act. And Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, Act 4, Act 5. Maximum in a traditional play, there will be a 5-act structure, and also the 3-act structure is also very popular. So in many plots, we'll see the 5-act structure. In many plots, or denouement or the end point involves a reversal of the situation, reversal in the protagonist's fortune, whether to protagonist's failure as a tragedy or success in a comedy plots. The reversal of the position of the protagonist. Who is this protagonist? protagonist is usually, we will recognize him as a hero of the play. We will see the situation of the hero. Once, if the starting of the play, if he is having some very successful life, at the end that there is a reversal of his fortune. He may be a failure in certain things which may be leading to a tragedy. If he is successful, his fortune is very much successful at the end of the play, usually it is regarded as the genre of comedy plays. This is the main difference in the plot structure. So again, the plot, the recognition as also happens at this moment. This is the recognition by the protagonist of something essential and important. So protagonist, the hero, will recognize what exactly happening in his life, what is the reversal, and why this reversal is happening to him. He or she will be try to find out the cause for his success or the failure. That is the main recognition. He will be recognizing his own fate. The plot evolves arouses expectations and as well as surprises. What is this? See, once you see a play, as an audience, we also have some kind of an expectation. This is going to happen in the next scene, or this is going to happen at the end, or some suspense is also there. If we are thinking that this protagonist is going to be successful, all of a sudden there will be a surprise that a hero may be failing to do his own acts. That is some kind of a surprise is created by the playwright in order to arouse some kind of interest to witness the performance. The interplay of suspense and surprise is the plot. Where is this suspense and surprises are happening? In the plot structure itself. The dramatist is going to create some kind of a suspense as well as the surprises for the audience in narrating this story. The conflict in drama, it may arise between the characters and the ideas between the characters and the events which are happening in the play, or between the characters, situation and larger forces of existence. See, this conflict, what is a conflict? Conflict is nothing but the difference of opinion. Difference of opinion between two people, that is the hero and the villain. Usually we call it as a antagonist and the protagonist, and there will be a conflict between two thoughts, conflict between two countries, conflict between two ideologies. This will be reflected in the form of a play, whereas it comes to the conflict of the play. Still, such development must be follow a logically from a preceding development, and every situation that arises in the course of the play has to be logical and convincing. See, first only we have told that the logical arrangement of dramatic incidents. Those incidents must follow logically. Each dramatic incident should be followed by another dramatic incident which is logically placed, preceding the development of every situation and every character. Character development is also there. If you see the beginning of the play, hero is not successful. At the middle, he is successful. At the end, he is exceeding his success and becoming more popular. So that is the development of the character. Maybe a downfall is also can be reflected if it is a tragedy. Okay. So now, plot and the character. I also said in the beginning, the plot and the character are interdependent. A play maybe have a subplot also. There is a plot and a subplot. Subplot means the second kind of a story which can be narrated in the same play, side by side. If you see a play, within a play there is a small story is running side by side also. There may be a friend of a hero, his story is also being narrated in a play, which we call it as a subplot. Always the subplot is created to enhance the main story. Main plot को enhance करने के लिए ही subplot को create किया जाता है. It is not independent. It is not running कोई दूसरा story उसमें नहीं आएगा. The subplot is mainly supporting the main story of the play, which is known as subplot. It is complete and runs parallel to the main plot, but it will support the main plot. The subplot seems to be a broaden or perspective on the main plot. Main plot को ज़्यादा explain करने के लिए भी sometimes the playwright will be using the subplot. Now we discuss the term called character. What is a character? The people involved in the action of the play are referred as characters. The people who are taking the story forward, written by the playwright, they are known as the characters or the dramatic personae. the two words are used. A character is an individual or a type representing distinct traits through their speech and then deeds, actions. See, characters are developed they're very typically representing their own styles, using maybe lines and also the way they act out their physicality of the characters. Each and every character usually will have three dimensions. One is the sociological dimension, one is the physical dimension, and the other one is psychological dimension. Three dimensions. Sociological dimension is talking about that particular character, how that particular character is placed in the society of that particular time. And sociological dimension, psychological dimension is that how a character will think about certain issues. And the physical dimension is how the character appears, how the physicality can be described. That is the physical dimension of the character. Within these three dimensions, the playwright or the dramatist is going to design the character of any play. So Aristotle said, used the word called ethos for the term character. The moral element, the intellectual element are the two basic elements which constitute a character. The moral element, how he or she will be behaving in the society, and the intellectual element which is there as a part of their psychology in the minds of that particular character, which is the basic elements to design the character also. The main character, of course, I already told you, is hero, or he is called as a protagonist. The opponent is the antagonist, or we usually call them in our general words like villain or hero. Hero is the protagonist and villain is the antagonist. A character may remain stable or may undergo a radical change, but he should be consistent from the beginning to the end. So that is the most important element which to be followed by the playwright. A character must remain stable. A character from the starting of the play to the end of the play, he or she will be remaining stable, or he can go a underchange of a characterization, rich to poor, poor to rich, or more intellect to a fool, or a fool to a more intellect. But it should go in a consistency. All of a sudden it cannot happen. It should have a logical reasoning to observe the changes in the character. That should be maintained. That thread should be maintained by the lines and as well as the actions of the character. Every character can be analyzed in terms of their physical dimension, psychological dimension, and as well as the sociological dimension. Now we have discussed about the plot, and we have also discussed about the character. Now we will be discussing about the three unities of the play. What are the three unities? Usually unity of action, unity of place, and unity of the time. These are the techniques used by the dramatist so as to make the audience understand the plot or the story of the play. The unity of action remains that the action represented by the play should be approximate and actual conditions of the staging of the play. The action should be remaining as one entity. You cannot suddenly jump into the more and more actions immediately, one action after the other. If you are continuing with an action, the action should be continued to give a clear-cut idea to the audience. The unity of the place. Unity of the place is that the action which is happening should be represented or limited to a single location. We are talking about the location. For example, you have a drawing room comedy which is going on. So unity of the place is the entire story is happening in a drawing room, so that you are not confusing the audiences. So that should be maintained by the playwright. So that is the unity of the place. Then the unity of the time means that the time be limited to 2 or 3 hours to enact the play. In other words, the unity of time is representing the story time of the play. Story time of the play. The entire story time which is happening in the play should happen in between 2 to 3 hours. What is happening between 2 to 3 hours or even 24 hours, what is the story is happening, that should be represented in a play, so that we are not going to get confusions about the story. some story is happening in and yesterday, now today, and again we are jumping into the other day. That kind of a confusion should be avoided. This is the traditional structure which we are talking about, the classical Greek theatre. Now modern play concepts are changing. Immediately we are shifting the locations, immediately we are shifting the time frame, immediately we are shifting the creation of the character also. We are traditionally talking about some of the units which are unit of time, unit of place, unit of space, unit of time, unit of action. In order to make the audience very clear about our play, these unities are incorporated by the playwrights. But the modern playwrights breaking these rules, breaking all the rules of unities. They will be doing one action at a street scene, the next action is a drawing room comedy, next action is going to somewhere else. So these jumpings are also there because the time has changed. The very understanding of the audience is now in a higher level, so they can understand which scene is happening where and what is the time frame which are being used. That can be easily understood now by the modern audience. So these people are making using the concept, but they are breaking the rules of these unities also. These terms are used mainly for the Greek theatre concept. Now we are coming to a dramatic structure which we are talking about. The dramatic structure which we are talking in terms of play. Now what is act and scene? As I already told you, the act is the one division of the main plot. For example, one play is divided into many acts. Each act again and again divided into many scenes. For example, there are 10 scenes in one act, and we are adding up, it becomes one act. And the second act, we have 10 more scenes we are going to add up. And such way, the acts and scenes are becoming a part of your entire play. Why this structure is coming up? That is the most important thing to understand. If you divide the play into scenes and acts, you can analyze the play very well. To understand the play, what exactly the playwright is intended to make the audience realize through his or her writings. And also this division of acts and scenes will be helpful to the actors to act out what exactly the development of his or her character in this particular scene. Then they can prepare for that, to act out those scenes, to make the scene to be performed. And if you add up all these scenes, it will becoming a act. So entirely the acts and scenes are helpful units which are going to really helpful for the actors and as well as the critics which are going to criticize or appreciate the play which is being performed before the naked eyes of the audiences. So acts and scenes we were talking about. There are some other techniques which are usually incorporated by the playwright that I think we will be taking up in the next session, and we will be talking more about the dramatic structure and dramatic texture in upcoming classes. Thank you.